Hello, friends. Look who's on
Aloha.
the boat. Look who's on the boat. Sam Holmes on the boat.
He's back.
We're still on the hard
Konnichiwa.
in Ventura Harbor Boatyard.
Still.
I was supposed to get a bunch of work done today, but it was raining all day, and luckily Sam's in town for a couple days.
Yep, I just got back from Tokyo, and I'm going to Florida to do more work, saving up for the next boat.
That's right. So he came, spent the day. We visited all day, just got dinner. Super nice to see him, hear all of his crazy adventures. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about all of that, because I know a lot of my viewers were real interested, when we first did the interview and the boat tour before he left for Hawaii, and then we all tracked him on his way out to Hawaii. And so yeah, let's get into talking about some of that. Let's get into what everyone wants to know from Sam. What are your plans? Well, we know you're still alive. Everybody, yeah,
I made it.
all your you made it to Hawaii. But the first question is, what are your future plans as of right now?
Well, I'm gonna keep sailing eventually, but I got a job offer at my old company at Disney for a short-term project, and I just finished up the Tokyo portion of the Beauty and the Beast ride, and so now I got a little bit more work for another month in Orlando, and then I'm looking at maybe getting a boat on the East Coast, probably maybe a little bit bigger than the boat I have now, maybe more seaworthy, because I want to do bigger ocean stuff, and California to Hawaii is a pretty reasonable to do in a 23-foot boat, but
Reasonable.
Well, I mean, we don't have
I want to do. Maybe
we don't
a
have
bigger
real
boat
weather
would
in
be
the Pacific, so
Yeah,
that helps a lot.
the Atlantic, maybe a little bit bigger boat would
Yeah,
be helpful.
for sure.
I mean, you can just get tossed around a lot in a small boat like that, which is fun too,
Yeah.
But yeah, something a little bit more sea kindly would be nice. But I want to keep making videos about it too, and yeah, keep on sailing. I'd like to circumnavigate it if that works out, but I don't know, just sailing other places.
Yeah.
We'll see. And kind of make it up as I go along. A lot of times when I would sail between islands, I'd change my mind and end up going to a different port. So it's all kind of up in the air, but I definitely have been on land for too long, and I'm itching to get back.
Yeah.
Back on a little bit.
You got to build up the cruising kitty, especially now.
Yeah.
You want to get a little bit bigger boat.
Mm-hmm.
And
that everything gets so much more expensive the bigger the boat you have.
And even maintaining them.
Oh yeah.
It's this is a 30-foot boat, and I can't. I mean, would it be nice to have a 36-foot boat? For sure, but we can barely. I don't even know that we can afford this boat. So it's
Yeah.
do what you can. Do what's possible.
When I sailed on Olivia's 34-foot boat, which is a wonderful boat. It's beautiful, and it sailed really nicely. But when we got back, it was out $5,000 worth of projects to work on, and it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out them all,
Yeah.
opening cabinets and furniture and disassembling things just to figure out what was wrong. It was just so overwhelming to me, and it made me really appreciate how simple my boat was.
Yeah.
With just a little fridge I could pop out and replace with a cooler, or just really simple electronics. I listened to how how fast the wind is going. I don't need to look at a screen to tell me.
Well, that's the old way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It works good enough.
That's I remember reading once about an old fisherman who didn't believe in telltales because he said that you can't see telltales at night. You got to know where the wind is on your cheek.
Yeah.
I always thought that was interesting. It's oh yeah, at night. You're oh crap.
Yeah, it works good enough. And I have a little ball in a tube, which is if I really want to know. But I kind of use that to kind of test myself, and I usually get pretty close to what the accurate amount. But yeah.
Yeah. It's smart. Oh, and it's less things to break too.
It's one of those things that's all the electronics and gadgets and stuff, when you're kind of planning your trips, and it kind of sounds nice, but once you're out there, you kind of realize you don't really need a lot of things. There's a lot of things that your priorities really start to change once you get out sailing.
Yeah. And then what was your most crucial piece of equipment for that passage?
Oh, I mean, things like the Dodger, having a third reef point I put in there, a real small third reef, just made the boat super comfortable when it was really howling. And I was the wind vane probably number one. The wind vane number one, third reef point, and the Dodger. just made the boat comfortable to sail with. Like,
made it tolerable.
it didn't really matter how long it took to get there if I could just go be comfortable and go down and read a book, you know.
Yeah.
Once you go down below, like everything kind of calms down and.
Once you're well outside the shipping lanes, then it's like you're not seeing anything anyway.
Absolutely. Like when you're near shore, it's really stressful. You gotta keep a pretty diligent watch. But once you get outside there, you can kind of relax a little bit.
And that's what our sail is. That's what's happening to it now. It's
we're having a third reef put in. We bought a used mainsail that's really
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Put in a third. It has 2 deep reefs. We're getting a third deep reef put in, and it's full battened.
And what's crazy is like the sail you have now has no reef points.
No reef
and
points.
You just have full sail, and this boat does great with it. It sounds like.
Yeah. Well,
I see you like heeling over pretty good.
We're not scared of burying the rails, but I'll also spill the main right to the point of where I know I can, as long as I'm at the helm, I'm comfortable with it. But if we did like a crash job, it would be no.
And if you're gonna trust the wind vane to be steering for you, you want to have it balance the boat, right? And not be trying to put a lot of weight.
We have a nice sail and we're putting in the full reefing system, but I'm not running anything back to the cockpit. It's all
what
gonna
style
run
of reefing are you doing?
Not the single.
Okay.
No, I would never.
And
Slab
so
slab
most of your
reefing.
lines are on the mast.
They're
too.
all gonna be
Nice.
forward. Yeah.
Less friction.
Yep.
And then your the weather vane.
The wind vane, yeah.
Yeah, the wind vane.
Yeah, you got the
wind vane. You got it was like right before you left, and then you were like, "I'm just gonna get this," right? What was that? You had something where like you right before you left, you bought something big for the trip.
The wind vane was maybe a couple months before, and that was a crucial piece of gear.
Yeah.
I mean, right before I left, one thing I got right before I left was a little solar shower. My friend's girlfriend convinced me to get one. I was like, I'm just gonna go to sea. I'll be salty. It'll be great. But like I don't know. After 2 weeks of being covered in salt, like I mean, I would have been fine in like the backcountry or something. But just like the salt is really like abrasive, and like it felt so good to just kind of goes off in some fresh water.
And then that's another thing me and Sam talked about a bunch of stuff today. How much water did you leave with? And then how much water did you arrive with? This is fascinating to me.
Lots of people are interested. I think I have way too little, but I thought it was all right. I brought 30 gallons of water. I figured the trip would take between 25 and 30 days.
And how long did it take?
It took me 27 days.
27. So right in the middle of where you guessed.
I thought maybe I'd get like a 21 if I was really fast, but it definitely wasn't. So I figured I'd probably use a half gallon a day, just for like the amount of activity I'd be doing. And that ended up to be about right, about half gallon. So then I doubled it, to a gallon, so 30 gallons for the trip. Like 30 was on the high side, and then if I went longer, I figured I could, conserve water and use my, half gallon would be funny, 60 days.
And then you got to take what you said, two
showers. 2 showers, and I like accidentally. I had the crappiest like Walmart, solar shower thing, and the little valve is garbage, and I was like. Trying to take a shower with a boat's rocket, and I got like all the shampoo in my eyes and stuff, and I was like trying to figure it out, and then like I like reach for it and I bust open the valve, and all my water just starts like spilling out all over the deck. I'm like, no, my precious water. But I still had plenty when I got back. Although the first half of the trip I was going really slow. It looked like I really might take like 60 days.
You seemed
I was doing like 50 miles a day there for a while. I'm sure if like you were tracking it looked kind of grim.
I was, and like the little posts you would make on your tracker, you seemed real stressed out there at the beginning. And man, I felt for you that first 24 hours because you could not get past Catalina.
Yeah.
It was like you were tacking so slowly back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, that's kind of normal for me, but if I was like, it's one thing doing that to get to Catalina. It's another thing when you have 2,000 miles ahead of you and you're doing like this to go, 10 miles in like a day.
Yeah, and you're still like in your regular cruising ground.
Yeah,
like,
I left in like a weird weather system, like wasn't the normal trade routes, and I ended up going like way down towards Mexico, which is kind of stressful in its own way because I didn't have my passport was expired, so I was like, if I go like way down towards Mexico, I have to bail out, and Mexico, that's gonna suck going there without a passport.
Yeah.
But then eventually you went down south, and then the trade winds kind of like hooked in, and I was able to kind of do that route up to to Hawaii. Yeah, and you're outside the shipping lane, so you don't see any more boats. It was cool.
Did you see any other boats when you were like way out there?
Yeah, not after like 300 miles or so. Like about 100 miles, I saw an aircraft carrier, which is like a weird encounter, and it was coming straight towards me. And I was like, what are the odds of this? Like, two boats, like, it's got to be intentional. So I turned my radio and turned the volume up and got out in the cockpit. Like, it was 3 a.m. I was like, am I seeing things?
Yeah.
I thought it was an oil rig at first because it was just power, like a
Yeah.
weird lights I hadn't seen before. And then I got closer, like, that's an aircraft carrier. I can see, like, planes and stuff. And it was coming, like, straight towards me. And, like, eventually I was like, I just got to turn, you know? It's like coming towards me. But I was like, why is it hailing me? And then the next morning I saw on my radio, I wasn't turning the volume up, I was changing the channel. So I wasn't on the right channel. They probably were.
Or did they even see you?
And then, I don't know. Like, they just kept on going after that. So, I don't know.
Well,
I did take a picture of it, so it was real. I was wondering if it
we
was
saw
in my
something
head.
weird one night on that delivery on our. Remember, we didn't know if it was an aircraft carrier or what. It was like a giant silhouette on the horizon.
I don't remember.
I didn't know if it was a car carrier or an aircraft carrier, but there was like the light, and even the captain was like, I think it's like an aircraft carrier, but it was like off the coast of Washington.
We
middle of
also
the night.
saw a submarine.
We saw a
Really?
submarine
Super weird.
being escorted on the surface by like two battleships, by like
Wow.
two like warships or whatever.
How
That
could you
was
could
cool.
see that it was like a submarine?
see it.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
could.
little-
We were close enough to see it.
That
You
close,
could
really?
even see like, that it was underway, and we used like the binoculars to get video and stuff. And it was,
Wow.
like,
How
yeah.
far offshore do you go for that type of passing?
No, we we saw that in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, I think is the name of that strait, which is like kind of Puget Sound, and then the strait that goes out, and Canada's on one side, the U.S. is on the other. So we saw it in there.
Oh, wow.
So, but on our trip, we stayed between 5 and 3 miles offshore.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like we skirted, we
Uh-huh.
set up
everything
all
was
of our.
not working, so we were like, we got to be able to get back to land.
Yeah, you can't just sail off. It's
Yeah.
a power boat. So
Right,
if
right.
it breaks
I guess it's a
down, you want to be
different
close enough to get towed in.
Yeah. I like to be as far as I can so
You-
I can have the sea room.
Yeah, if
and
it was my boat, I would have had the
Yeah.
same thing, but it wasn't my
I
boat.
can like
so-
relax a little bit.
Yeah, but in a power boat, it's like, a whole different.
Yeah.
So we were drawing our tracks, like our waypoints, just kind of skirting all the 3 mile marks, like outside of any obstacles, because we'd have to dodge in and get $3,000 worth of fuel.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
$12,000 of fuel in the
Holy
end.
smokes.
Yeah. So
Wait, so we were talking about this at dinner because this is my expertise on about this is my job. What did you bring? How did you provision?
Oh, for visions.
Yeah.
Oh, mostly canned foods. It was actually not too difficult. I just
Yeah.
filled up a grocery cart the day
You just
before.
You just souped
I brought, I'm making a list on my website. I'm trying to kind of document all
Yeah.
that stuff now that I have time
That's
to
good.
like do that. So I tried to write down my shopping list. I had like 10 apples, like a bunch of bananas. I had like a bunch of fruit for the first couple weeks, and then lots of cans of soup because I just pour a can of soup in my jet boil, and like a minute later it's ready to go. Some pasta, the instant mashed potatoes, which I ate a bunch of those. Like eggs, those lasted pretty much until I got into kind of the more tropical climate. Because I had a refrigerator, but I ended up turning it off because of my power. I wasn't getting enough
yeah, it
power.
was drawing too much.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think my front solar panel went out, and I was just using too much power. But I didn't really need it for the most part until once you get towards Hawaii and it gets really hot, it's like really nice to have refrigeration so you can have some cold drinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, refrigeration wasn't too bad. Yeah, lots of cans of soup. I ran out of like candy or fruit or anything sweet. Like I would have brought more cans of fruit just to have something sweet towards the end because I was really craving that at the end. But I did a pretty good job for the most part. Oh, if you get cheese, if you get it like in smaller packets, like individually wrapped cheeses, they last like forever. Even unrefrigerated, they last a long time. Once you open it, they go really quick. So if you have like packs of cheese,
Then
they
they're all
they last
sealed
for, like, a
until you
day.
want 'em.
But like you can get, it's a little more expensive, like string cheese or even like they
String
can
cheeses,
get
yeah.
cheddar in like little packets too. And it's just a little bit more, but it's totally worth it, because then it lasts so much longer. You don't even
Yeah.
need to refrigerate it. Because there's a lot of times when you just need to turn the refrigerator off for a few days to build up the battery, and then you can turn it back on.
Yeah.
And it's nice if like I don't have to worry about the cheese and everything
Yeah.
going bad.
Did you do that? Did you have like eggs that hadn't been refrigerated? Did you do the Vaseline thing?
No, I just got regular refrigerated
ones.
eggs, and they held up fine. Yeah.
That's one thing you're looking forward to, right?
Yeah, I'm excited because like our fridge is so small.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a good size. Like obviously it can't be any bigger on this boat, but we eat so many eggs that I'm excited to get like flats of eggs that have never been refrigerated, so I don't ever have to refrigerate them because that's the rule.
Yeah, they last a lot longer
Yeah.
if they've never been refrigerated. You don't need to refrigerate them.
Yeah, and
But
like
if it's just for like 2 or 3 weeks, especially if it's not
Then-
really
yeah,
hot,
then
they'll be fine. Yeah.
yeah. Or even like the Hiscocks talked about, you coat it in Vaseline and the air doesn't get to the inside and they don't rot. So that's how you can keep eggs for a very long time if they're non-refrigerated.
Yeah, I do this thing where I put. People judge me for like the amount of plastic I'm consuming, but I put the eggs in a Ziploc bag and the cheese and everything, and then I boil that. So then I just I make an omelet in a Ziploc bag, and it's like nothing to clean up.
It's like that machine you're like that thing you're talking about cooking.
Oh, like a sous vide machine.
Yeah, it's like,
a sailing
poor man's
sous
sous
vide.
vide.
That's also like a weird thing. I used to work at a coffee shop, and we'd put the it's not exactly the same, but we'd crack a couple eggs in one of those like metal, like you heat the milk for a latte,
The frother.
and we'd use the frother to make like a puffy omelet thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, eggs.
There you go. That is funny. So, and then so what was your main stove? Was that jet boil, right? That's all you had?
Yeah,
to
it's the
cook
only
with?
stove I had, and like I got the adapter so I could use butane. But one can of the butane is like $1.50 at one of the discount stores here for like a can of that. Lasted me the whole 27 days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like, and I would use it like once a day probably average. Yeah.
And you had brackets
so, like,
inside and out, right?
Really,
So you
like you think about provisioning for like it seems like a long time, like almost a month at sea, but it really wasn't that difficult, at least for one person. I guess
Yeah.
if 2 people, you kind of double everything.
Yeah.
So then it does kind of take up some room.
you're not exerting much
But-
energy.
Yeah, you're not exerting a lot of energy.
You mostly eat because you're bored.
Yeah, and I eat because for seasickness too.
Oh yeah.
I like to always keep something in my stomach, so I like have a lot of crackers just to kind of I had a lot of crackers
Yeah.
to eat. Just kind of always keep something in my stomach.
How often did you get seasick?
I got seasick once, kind of towards the middle of the trip,
Mhm.
because I didn't have anything in my stomach. I
Mm.
went 2 days, maybe a day and a half without eating, just because I was just kind of laying around, not doing anything.
Yeah.
I stayed inside too long, and got kind of depressed, and then I got seasick, and I was like, I gotta make myself stay outside. But it's like in the sun, you're exposed in
Yeah.
the cockpit, and sometimes
Yeah,
it's just
because
more
he didn't have a
comfortable staying out
bimini.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the Dodger, which gave me my standing headroom, which I really liked the Dodger. And it just, whenever waves would come over, it would just like keep you so much drier. But yeah, next trip I want to have some permanent shade in the cockpit.
So you sailed 27 days. You arrived at Hilo at night, right?
Hilo at night.
And then how long did you stay in
Sleep
Hilo?
in Anchorage. About 3 weeks in Hilo. Then I sailed around to the Kona side, Honokahau, and then up to across Alainuihaha, which is a pretty gnarly channel, to Hana.
And you said that's like one of the gnarliest, right?
Yeah, it's got a reputation for really big, and it was. Like, I sailed into it, and it was like 40 knot gust, and I like turned right around, and then I kind of like inched my way back, cause I
Stick your nose out a little bit.
go into a little bit, like, nah, maybe not yet. I'll try again. And then like a third or fourth time, I got brave enough, and I just went across it, and then I was gonna go down to Lahaina, but that was one of these cool things about sailing alone, like with no real like destination, like real like where you have to be.
Yeah.
I was making pretty good progress to windward, kind of. And I was like, I think I can make it to the north side of Maui, and that would be easier to get to now, and then sail downwind later. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go to Hana, and the cruising book said Hana was like not a great anchorage in trade wind conditions, but we'll give it a try. If not, I'll just sail downwind to the next anchorage, and it was great. Yeah, so that worked good. And I did Kalalui, super expensive anchorage.
And where is that? That's on Maui?
Yeah, it's going around. So I went clockwise around Maui, and then actually I didn't go. And then I did Honolulu, and then went over to Molokai. I did every Hawaiian island, except for the military shooting range and the one for locals only. And
Yeah,
then
the oldest island, which is the furthest kind of out and most disintegrated looking, is only for native Hawaiians. And then you missed Molokini.
Molokini, that little crater. It would have been cool to dive there.
Looks beautiful. I didn't get to go out there when I was there, but looks gorgeous. And then so then after Molokai, then where did you go?
Molokai, and then I was trying to go to around to another. There's a town in Molokai, kind of on the leeward side, and I was trying to go up there, but it was just the wind. The channel in between Molokai and Lanai was just the wind was just flowing through there so strong, and I wasn't able to make it upwind. So I just kind of kept going as high upwind as I could, and ended up like hooking around Lanai, and I was like, well, I'm at Lanai, so then I ended up pulling into Lanai, and that was a really cool island.
Yeah, I don't know anything about
that
that island.
It's really great scuba diving. I think it's owned by that Oracle guy. It's like there's kind of pricey like resorts there, but it's got a really great marina. Yeah, that guy. He owns most of the island, but it's got a real nice public marina. It's still public owned, which
cool.
they were trying to like privatize it, but like the locals insisted like they keep it, which is really cool. Like the rates are reasonable. And I got a scuba dive there. I had like half a tank left, and I figured it'd be worth it. And then Cathedral's dive cave there was amazing. You have to like go underwater to grab these mooring balls.
Oh yeah, that's what he was telling me about.
Yeah,
this is insane.
So they have
never heard of this.
They have these mooring balls so people don't put their anchor on the coral, and they're underwater so boats don't foul their props on them. So you kind of got to know where they are. But it's not too bad if you have like one person to spot it and steer the boat and one person dive down below. But I don't know. Eventually, like I decided just to go jump down there and get it myself. So you have
no one else
on the boat. Yeah, you jump off your boat and then you swim down 10 feet or so, and then you thread it through, and then you try to catch the boat. One time, like I couldn't thread it through, and I was like holding on to the boat, and there's a rope too, and I was like trying to pull the boat in. Luckily, it wasn't too
And we're
windy.
using a pony bottle, or
no, I just free dive it.
Free diving.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Didn't get ripped in half.
No. So that was cool. I got the mooring ball, and then luckily another dive boat comes because I do like very sketchy solo scuba diving sometimes, kind of by necessity to get my anchor. But luckily another dive boat came, so I kind of felt like tucked in with their group.
Hung out with them.
And they kind of pointed out where to go. And it was amazing.
That's awesome. And you got footage of that or no?
No, that was the one with the GoPro. Yeah, the GoPro. It's waterproof, but once you go too deep, it like suctions down the button. And
so how deep is the entrance to cathedrals?
I think it didn't seem more than 30 feet. It must have been like 40 feet. Just deep enough that the GoPro wouldn't work, right?
Just below one.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was too not much for me. Like I'm not not super experienced scuba diver or anything. I felt like I just kind of went through it, and then came back.
Yeah.
It was so cool the way the light comes through
the water's so clear there too. It's just insane, and the water's so warm compared to here.
Yeah, it's like kind of Catalina, like Maui's Catalina. There's a ferry that goes back and forth. If you're ever on Maui, you can just take a ferry over there. And there's not a lot of ferries that go in between the islands. I think it's maybe partly because the channels are
it's so gnarly,
rough,
right?
They can't like have regularly scheduled ferries.
Yeah, and that's we were talking about, and the sailing community in Hawaii is not robust because sailing between islands, you have to be like very comfortable in big winds, and the currents are pretty gnarly. So because the geographic features of the islands, it's almost like what we have with the Santa Anas here. So it's like putting your finger over a garden hose. So like these currents and the winds just funnel between these mountains into these small spaces between islands and just accelerate at great, man. And you were saying that it was really gnarly closer to the island, right? And then when you got in the middle of the channel, it died off a bit.
Yeah, and then we kind of figured it was maybe the katabatic winds going downslope of the mountains that were making it stronger on the
so it's
side.
like just gnarly to get into.
And then the currents too, like you were saying, like in Southern California, we don't really have any currents at all.
Nothing to speak of. Yeah.
And I think I like kind of glanced on Windy to see if the currents, and like the currents, I can't find a really good source to like find information on the current forecasts and stuff out there, because when I was sailing around the Big Island, I felt like I was making pretty good progress, and then I look at my phone chart plotter thing, and I'm actually like not going anywhere at all.
Yeah.
Like, and I start going backwards actually.
Yeah, because if you're sailing,
24 hours
and then you probably
staring at the airport.
You probably couldn't even tell, right?
No, because you see the wake. Yeah, you feel like you're moving.
Yeah,
like relative to the water, you are.
You are sailing forward, but if you're sailing forward at 4 knots against a 6-knot current,
no, you're
going backwards 2 knots. It's like, what a bummer.
That was a real learning experience.
Yeah, and it could pin you to an island, which is dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if it's not, can be no good.
Yeah, so I had like 2 experiences, like fighting against currents. One on the Big Island, it just took me 24 hours to get like the last 4 or 5 miles to shore.
So gnarly.
And then another time going from trying to get to Oahu, back from New Willy Willy. It was just the same thing, like fighting the current and upwind passage. Yeah, towards the end there, I was getting kind of tired of sailing upwind.
Yeah, I bet. And then, like, if you haven't seen Sam's channel or seen his videos, his only auxiliary power is this small battery-powered outboard that he uses to get in and out of slips or anchorages So you know, if you're in that situation,
No,
you just have to
Yeah, the
hang-
motor is useless. You just gotta wait.
you just
out.
like
make sure you have a book to
tack
read.
back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And then you were saying too that at one point you just sailed way out to sea, right? Like far out, went
Yeah.
to sleep, and then like at 3 a.m. like attacked, and then
Yeah, that was kind of my strategy for like 12-hour passages. You know, it's like I would just leave in the evening, and you have the wind vane steering the boat. Like you just kind of go way far from the islands. There's nothing to worry about hitting, or like there's not that many boats around Hawaii either, not like around here. And then yeah, you tack back and just every once in a while kind of look around, and
Right.
the boat just takes care of itself. And then sun comes up, and you're like, oh, you're at my port, and now I can see everything. And
That's amazing.
Go ahead and deal with that.
That's awesome.
Much better than air travel.
Yeah, no doubt. So then you sailed from Lahaina, or no? Lanai.
let's see.
Lanai is the
Lanai to like I did Lahaina. I did a couple of stops and then went to Lahaina, and then from there I think I went back up to Honolulu. It's such good snorkeling. Did it one more time, and then over to Oahu.
And how long was that passage?
I don't know. Maybe it was about a day. A little less than 24 hours, I think, for that one. Because like again, like I don't. If the wind dies, I just drift. And I've gotten kind of used to that. Once you accept it, if you don't have a timetable, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of sucks at the time because there's always that period where it's like, do I put the sail down? Do I leave it up and let it like flap back and forth? You know. But yeah, it's usually better just to kind of put it down and wait for the wind to pick up.
Yeah, the only problem there is then you're bobbing around like crazy.
Yeah,
but
the boat really rocks.
that's-
Sometimes I put the third reef in and do it real flat because
Right.
with my sail I have to have it on the second or third reef to get it flat enough.
Mhm.
And then if you get it real tight, then sometimes the sail won't even be able to flap, but it will kind of give you that slow your
Yeah,
damping
it
your rolling
stabilizes
a little bit.
just enough to make it
Yeah.
something. And then you went to Kauai.
Yeah, Kauai. I did Kauai twice, once in my boat and once in a friend's boat, and both times sailing back is just rough.
Really?
Yeah, it's an upwind passage. That's the longest channel.
Oh, really?
It's like, it ends up being like 100 miles.
Oh, okay.
So it's easy getting there. It's hard to get back. But Kauai is definitely it's a beautiful place. I would like to sail around it, but I think you need a lot of time because it's again the second half is coming upwind or either like upwind on the north side and then it's
Right.
like real windy, or like on the south side and then it's gonna be like you're in the wind shadow. It's gonna be real light.
Yeah, you're just gonna do nothing.
Yeah, but I did New Willy Willy one for the first time. I anchored there. It's a nice little harbor. Not a whole lot around there. And then Hanalei on the top. That's right near the Nepali coast, and it's a lot more. I really like the Nepali coast. I hiked there a little bit.
And you were doing your paragliding too, right?
Yeah, I did paragliding on Big Island and Maui, and I tried on. I guess I didn't end up paragliding on Oahu, but it's a pretty cool way to see a new place is to kind of fly above it.
And where'd you spend the most time?
I guess probably the Big Island because I spent 3 weeks in Oahu.
Well, that was right after your passage. You
Yeah,
probably
and
had
I
to
was
rest
like,
and
I wasn't
relax.
sure if I wanted to like jump back and sail again. I probably wanted to sail with another person too, like because I was like so tired of being alone for so long. But then once I got 3 weeks on shore and then ended up sailing out again, the pleasure of sailing alone kind of came back to me.
Yeah.
It's really.
It's also nice too when you know that at the end of the day you're gonna have another spot to explore. So-
Yeah, like you have a cool destination, something to be excited about. But I don't know, like having no one to account to, and just like you're like the king of your boat, it's like if you want to change destinations, you don't have to like explain it to anyone else.
Well,
Like,
the
I
other
kinda
thing
like that.
too is like you're very patient and accepting of uncomfortable situations. So like a lot of people would be real bummed
Yeah.
and drifting for 10 hours.
And
Where
like
you're chill, you
if
just read
someone
a
else is
book.
bummed, then I'm bummed too because
Yeah,
of
it
that.
affects you
Like
for
I can't
sure.
just like get in my own mindset sometimes if someone else, like maybe they're trying to, go.
But then you're worried about their comfort,
Yeah,
and you're like,
worrying about
oh, and
someone
then
else's comfort.
it makes everything more uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's
so-
pros to sailing with someone else. It's
Oh, for
nice
sure.
to share it with someone. It's
Absolutely.
the places you go to.
Yeah.
On these sailboats.
And then you met the
Olivia.
Olivia,
Yeah,
female sea
another
captain. She's a
solo
sea captain,
sailor.
right?
Yeah.
And
Sailed
what
from-
kind of boat does she have?
She had a Panda 34. That was a really nice boat. We sailed so we sailed together for like a week-long trip, and it was cool. We got along pretty good for parts of it, but then there was other parts. It was like two solo sailors with their own mindsets. There's a little bit of friction there.
Yeah,
But in the end, we ended on pretty good terms, and we had a good time.
that's good. And it's also good to give you a taste of like sailing for that amount of time with someone else. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, like versus what you thought in your mind versus reality. But also, I guess it depends on if you're on someone else's boat or your boat, or you know.
You really get to know someone quickly, like you're kind of stuck together. And the boat, her 34-foot boat, seemed like a little house. Like felt huge in the marina, and they get smaller once you get out to sea, for sure.
Especially you can't walk around the block. Yeah. Now I've been on deliveries where you're at sea for 7 days with like 4 or 5 people on a boat, that you don't know. And you're like,
oh yeah,
just go sit on the bow and read for a while because you're like, oh shit, what have I got myself into? Yeah. Yeah,
deliveries thing is interesting. That's cool that like you get to experience powerboating. Like it's a completely different perspective. You can kind of see what they're doing, from a sailing.
For sure. And it's like, I mean, we were lucky because we were coming with all the currents and stuff, so. That would have been even more of a miserable trip. Like I'm good friends with the captain of that boat. So before that, that was a benefit. Do you need to go pee?
He's gotta go pee. Yeah. Turn it up.
Pee too.
Turn it. Turn it
We'll be back.
It's like loading media onto hard drives and putting it into servers. So it's kind of just like some mundane kind of work.
Boring as fuck.
Yeah, I'm ready to go sail again. Retire. That suits me, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
I know it's hard. It's
I'm gonna make whatever I earn from this Disney thing
last for a minute.
Yeah, I want to buy another small boat.
I'm pushing him to get a Triton.
Triton, 26.
20. It's a 20. I think they're 26 foot. I don't know.
That sounds like the kind of boat I want.
Light the bottom one.
They're not full of fuel.
Oh.
There's a Pearson Ariel 26, I think. It had like 5 foot, like 10 hit. It was like my head was just the right height. And I like that, like don't want to like more than I need.
Yeah.
It was like the same layout, which I think is good.
Those are also Carl Alberg design. Those Ariels are.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you're right. It was.
You love small boats.
That's kind of my does well on YouTube. It's like it's attainable. Like someone could see themselves in their day sail there or whatever, like sailing. Because the boat I had was really like a day sailing boat.
Yeah, I don't see I don't see myself in a 23-foot boat sailing to Hawaii.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So, they're doable. Like the skipper is the weak link in the
absolutely.
You could sail a Catalina 22 there. I'm convinced now.
Oh yeah. No,
it would be fine.
I have this book. Can't remember the name of the book. I'm gonna find it and give it to you. Send it, mail it to you. About this Japanese kid that sailed from Japan to San Francisco in a 19-foot boat. Wow. And it's so funny. He's he was a teenager. Early 20s, very young, and like didn't tell anyone about it, didn't even tell his mom, like only told one friend, and that friend saw him off and then told everyone. He was like, wait this many days so I can get it. But he was saying when he was sailing out,
I heard about that.
He was like, when he would see police, he would have to turn and tack back like he was going to land, because they would be like, he didn't have a passport or anything, he just sailed, and he got capsized, he rolled twice but didn't dismast.
Wow.
But it's in the book, he's talking about how much water he needed, but he didn't want to store that much. And he was like, well, there's this much water in beer. So he packed this amount of beer, for his water content. Which was...
People think one thing I did was crazy, but that's like a different level. There's lots of stories like that too.
Yeah, and he did it. And they have the Maritime Museum in San Francisco has his boat. Like they're restoring it to put it on display.
Wow.
And this was maybe in the 70s or 80s, I can't remember.
Yeah, someone was telling me about that over in Tokyo, because like they have much more strict about, you have to have like a boating license and stuff to sail around there.
That's the thing, it astonished me when I started hanging out with you and you were like, you don't need anything, you can just jump in a boat and go around.
You can get a free boat in any marina if you just wait around long enough, and you can just sail it out, you don't need anything.
Well, even scarier than that, you don't need a license to drive giant power boats. It's completely insane.
Yeah.
Which I'm all for it. I mean, I like that it's still Wild West and
One thing.
No.
There's few things out there, right, that are.
I agree. It's just I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean the ocean takes care of the people who are stupid.
It weeds them out. Yeah, for sure. So yeah. So that was your Hawaii adventure.
That was it. Yeah.
And then you work for Disney. You want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what you do?
Oh, I work for
Yeah.
Disney Imagineering, so we do like theme parks and cruise ships and resorts. I was working on the Beauty and the Beast attraction in Tokyo, and I finished up my work on that. So I think that'll be open sometime, this next year. And so now I'm going back to Orlando to do another project, just because I got an opportunity to make some money right now.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense, I'm putting a lot of overtime in, just like in a short period of time, just working, and it's kind of a bummer because I really wanted to keep making videos and sailing,
Yeah.
but it just makes so much more sense just to focus on like doing the work and getting some overtime and money saved up, because then I can just sail for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
Because I live so cheap on the boat, just
Yeah.
like leaving it at anchor. I spend like maybe almost half the time at anchor, between anchor or marinas, when I am not sailing.
What do you think you were spending a month in? How long were you in Hawaii on your boat? First of all,
Maybe 3 months,
Wow.
something like that.
it went fast.
Yeah,
And
I did a lot there.
Yeah.
I sailed.
Hawaii's pretty
half of this.
expensive too.
Yeah.
So what do you think you were spending a month? Do you have an idea?
I think maybe $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
With like my food and
And that's
moorings
But
and
that
stuff,
place is
and
so
it's
expensive.
an expensive
So
place to live.
Yeah.
But it's not like it is doable. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid of like cruising there. Like it's got a reputation of being bad for cruising, and like you can do it if you're
you did a
willing
ton.
to.
Yeah.
and
In a little
like,
bitty
you
boat,
did
yeah.
more seaworthy boat. Yeah, we can do it. It's there, I think in the winter it's rougher though.
Mhm.
So I did it fortunately like in the summer.
Yeah.
Like I think the swell really picks up. But this on the other hand, like I think you just switch the anchorages. Like once the swell changes directions, you kind of like people move from Hanalei to New Willy, Kauai. Like and so there's always a safe port if you're willing to cross over to an island or move your boat around. There's maybe not like as many year-round anchorages that you can keep your boat all year, but if you're willing to move it around, there's always some place you can put your boat.
And then like, what's your short list of boats right now? Do you know?
Well, what were we talking about? Like the Pearson, the Tritons and the Alberg. I don't know, like something kind of similar to this. I'd like to keep it a little smaller just because there's certain things like raising sails I'd like to be able to do without winches and tacking and furling in sails. Like the nice thing about my 23-foot boat is you could do almost anything without winches if you were just kind of timed it right.
Mm-hmm.
And like pulling up the anchor and stuff, like you add a few extra feet, everything gets more gets bigger and heavier and harder to do. So if I could keep it like under 30 feet,
I think Choi Lee's are 27 foot. You can get 27 foot Choi Lee's.
Yeah, there's
the
that
problem
one
is
in
that
Newmark
they have
that's
the,
like about the right size.
the
But they have
teak
a teak
deck.
deck. Yeah,
That's
it's a
the
big
problem.
project.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want a boat with a teak deck. They're beautiful, but
So we'll see what's on for sale.
But you're
I'm
looking for something that's more blue water.
Yeah,
but
something
also
a little bit
small.
more. Maybe not like a day, not a Ranger 23. Well, the Ranger 23 was a fine boat. Like I think it's a little bit more stout than a lot of day sailors. Like when I looked at it, like I just saw like the mast and the rigging, and it was like a size up than like a Catalina 22 and stuff. Like it looked more seaworthy, and they built them to be raced in the San Francisco Bay and stuff, which is like the same kind of winds you're gonna be facing sailing to Hawaii.
Did you move the chain plates out on that, or was it already out?
There was one chain plate that had a horrible crack. It was just held on by a hair of metal, so I swapped that. The other ones seemed.
But they were on the hull, or they were.
They were going through the deck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'd rebed all of them in the end. Yeah. Are yours bolted on the side of the hull?
They will be. No, ours go through,
you're
but we're moving them out. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unless what was it that girl that sailed Maiden Voyage? What's her name? Like her chain
Laura
plates are
Decker?
just like Laura Decker. It sounded like they were just leaking like crazy on that.
Yeah.
I guess they probably weren't vetted properly. But yeah, I like the idea of having them out because it's just like
I just want to be able to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, you can see them and it makes sense.
Yeah, and this boat is not cord. It's like solid fiberglass. So
is the deck
what I mean?
even really? Yeah.
No, the deck is masonite cord, so it's not even balsa. So
okay,
it's
so
like,
you don't have to worry about it rotting away.
Yeah.
I think mine had a balsa core on the deck. And there's definitely areas where it just completely dissolved, but the fiberglass they laid up was on so thick, like you could step on it and it wasn't.
Yeah, it just felt
spongy.
squishy, but it wasn't.
No, because the fiberglass was thick on that one.
That's
on the
good.
deck, which I've been on that boats where they're so squishy and stuff. But like I don't know, it just seemed like you got 2 layers of fiberglass and they're not like moving around.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it was pretty solid. But there was areas where they didn't seal up the core when they drilled holes.
Yeah, the only place on this boat where it's compromised is in the cockpit. Is like the masonite is completely mush. We just tried to rebed the little bronze access hole, and when we pulled it off, it's just like soaking wet. It's like toasted. Well, eventually, but that's not a structural thing, so it's not an issue for us.
Yeah, you really gotta take each boat like, as its own thing. Like you can look on the internet and people say, oh, this type of boat is no good, but sometimes it is all right if you just kind of look at it and figure, like there's so much, people just spouting off like, stuff on the internet about like this type of boat being seaworthy.
Yeah, but, like, well, it's easy to do that from home.
Yeah, like if you go out and a lot of these boats are, seaworthier than.
Oh, you proved that in the Ranger. You know what I mean?
And a lot of seaworthy boats maybe aren't, seaworthy. If a particular example hasn't been, taken care of, or there's a weakness.
Yeah.
In it.
Or if there's if it's so big that it's difficult to.
Yeah, if you can't handle it.
That's
it's not the right boat for you.
That's a great point. Like, it may be the most seaworthy boat,
yeah,
but
it's a super seaworthy boat, but you just can't
you might be
get
better
to
off in a
it.
smaller boat.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and so now you're thinking about getting a boat on the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm kind of keeping my eyes open. Like the Pacific Northwest, there's so many like good boats I see popping up all the time. So I kind of keeping my eyes on that. But like I have family on the East Coast, so it would kind of be helpful because I wanted to really do a solid refit. The boat could go out for like like 2 or 3 years, which is really what I want to do next. Like not doing this like keep buying and selling and refitting boats. I want to just kind of go out longer next time. Because towards the end of that Hawaii trip, I was just kind of sick of being like cramped in this tiny little Ranger.
Yeah.
I just wanted a little bit more room.
You have to find a balance between like what you can afford, what's safe, and what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
and like the project you're willing to take on,
Yeah.
And that's what I'm kind of looking at right now.
And then if you do end up getting a boat somewhere on the East Coast, like where would you point your boat once you got ready to take it?
No, I mean we could like a north. Like across the Atlantic, maybe over to Europe, like the. Like
you could go Nova Scotia, Greenland.
Yeah, that
to
sounds
Iceland.
awesome. Yeah,
it's not difficult.
Or that's like the easy thing would be or the traditional thing would be go like down the Caribbean, I guess, right? And do that. But I don't know. I kind of have the more feeling.
I've been to Nova Scotia and like the Bay of Fundy. Everything up there is so beautiful.
Yeah,
I know.
It's really pretty.
If I had the choice, I would do Nova Scotia, Greenland, Iceland, and then like the Faroe Islands.
That's what kind of speaking to me right now.
Yeah, and then Norway.
Yeah.
Or you could go from the Faroe Islands down to.
There's so much cool stuff to explore, like around like the Stockholm archipelagos and stuff, and
Yeah, and the Baltic, it's amazing over there. Like Åland Islands, I love them so much. I would, if someone gave me the option to go cruising, like on their budget. I mean, if someone was like, "Here's whatever money you want. You can either go to the Caribbean or Åland." I would go to Åland in a second. It's so cool. It's amazing. And there's tons of like Scandinavian sailors enjoying those cruising grounds. Lots, really taking.
Well, my one experience in the Caribbean was a Disney cruise ship that landed in Nassau, and I was like, "Get me the hell out of here!"
Yeah, see, that doesn't. And I'm sure there's a lot of
there's really good spots, or you could find remote spots.
For sure.
But, like, in my head, I just have this landing in this giant cruise ship at Nassau, just a big port.
There's a lot of charter boats and a lot of tourism in the Caribbean. I'm sure there's a ton of incredible cruising there as well, and the weather's right when it's not hurricane season. The water's warm compared to here.
I do like that about Hawaii, just being able to jump in, like the tropics,
Yeah.
That's the thing though, like a cruise ship, like just seeing one, having it invade your like sight line is like, they're so overwhelming, they're so unnatural. Like,
and like a new Willy, I was in the harbor, and then it was great. It was really peaceful. And then one morning, just like this loud, engines you hear, and then you look out in your sight lines.
And there's a building,
changed. There's like a city right across from you now, or it was just it's like empty port with mountains behind you.
Yeah, and it's funny too, like the skipper who taught me to sail, Celia Bull, she runs a charter boat in the Isle of Egg in Scotland. And she was telling me she sailed on a big boat. She was crew for, like I was telling you about, for the first Blue Planet film. So she was in the sailing crew for that, and they were taking filmmakers to Antarctica and the South Georgia Islands and the Southern Ocean. But she was saying when they were under anchor in
Okay.
she was saying when they were under anchor in Antarctica that they were like sitting there and they were filming and stuff. But she said they would be under anchor and a giant, like cruise ship would come up and hang out, and everybody would like check everything out and this and that. And
sail
then it
all
would,
the way down to Antarctica, and there's still cruise.
Yeah, and then it would leave, and she said it was timed out like clockwork. It was like X number of hours. Another one would cruise up. Oh man! So that everyone on this cruise ship thought no one else is down here. But she said it was like a revolving door of these cruise ships doing the same motion, just like like a big circle. Wow. Yeah, from Chile to Antarctica.
Yeah, you've got a real exciting voyage planned down.
Yeah, we. I
guess you're not going out. You're going kind of in. What was that called? Inside Passage of Chile?
The channels in Chile. So it's like where the Straits of Magellan kind of spit out on the Pacific side. There's a whole set of protected waterways that like Hal Roth and his wife navigated and sailed through on their little bitty boat. I think they were down there in the 60s. And so yeah, we're gonna be sailing like Sea of Cortez for 8 months, and then Costa Rica and Panama, and then Galapagos, and then back to the mainland to Peru, and down Chile, and hopping into there and spending like. Basically, we're just gonna take our time as long as we get to Cape. We're gonna do Cape Horn in December of 2021. So as long as we're at Cape Horn by December or January,
we're gonna be. I mean, if we're having a super great time, it just has to be during December. It could be.
It could be January. It could be up to the beginning of February. So we have like a 2-month window. Yeah. It just can't be before December, and it can't be after January. So, yeah.
What are you using to find your guides for seasons and stuff? Is it the like there was a book that had like all the routes of the world. I was looking at to find Hawaii.
James Cornell. You actually gave me a copy too, but I had a copy as well. Or you tried to give me. I don't remember, but I have that book.
I'm always trying to give each other books to like.
I know. Yeah. I have that book, which helps a lot with like sailing seasons. We'll also have printouts of every pilot chart for every region for the first 2 years.
Oh, nice.
So like, so we can know what the winds generally do and everything in each spot. I'll also have tidal charts for all of Chile.
Yeah.
And my older brother's going to the Library of Congress to try to print out a bunch of charts for me.
Nice.
So
I feel like we should, if we could, try to meet him there and go see that, because I used to live in DC, so going to see the Library of Congress and the National Archives and going to get some of the like really cool old.
I'd be
all
into
the pilot charts get put in the Library of Congress too. That's cool. Okay. So Chris gave me a old pilot chart, like an old one of like.
But you can get almost all the pilot charts online for free and print them out.
Oh really? Okay. It was kind of nice because the wind wasn't doing what I wanted to do, so I pulled out the chart and I was like, "Yes, I'm not crazy. It should be coming in this direction."
They're very helpful. And those things have been kept for centuries. That's data that's been collected for centuries.
Yeah,
so, which is cool.
Just frustrating when the wind doesn't do what
Also, like that route, we met. There was a couple, like an older couple, who came through and said hi to us on the boat, like in here, on the Hard, and they had just done that last year.
Yeah, they just came back from Patagonia.
And speaking of winds, they were like, yeah, sometimes like it's still sheltered, but we had 9 lines to the land out.
Yeah.
So we were
during a blow that they knew was coming. Yeah. But they had tied up at 9 different lines to hold them in one spot.
Like a spider web.
Yeah. Yeah. And
but they were like, it's amazing, like you gotta go. It's like it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, but they were also saying the anchorages are rad, there's plenty of room for boats, and you won't see anyone for days. There, if you want to, you can go to areas where like the little villages are. But they're like, if you want to just be out in it, you can just be out in it and not see anyone. And we're like, yes,
that's what one thing about Hawaii. Like Honolulu Bay, I could have it like to myself in the evenings, but then 7 a.m.
Here comes
catamarans, one after another.
For snorkeling, they bring them over there to go snorkeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like anchored way outside. Why do you anchor it so far out? Like, let's keep my distance.
And what was the depth on that?
Oh, it's maybe 40, 50 feet.
So are most of the depths in Hawaii like reasonable? I mean, compared to Catalina?
It's kind of similar to like the coast over here. Like you gotta kind of there's only select anchorages that are you know, anchored. Like it drops off pretty quick because those volcanoes, they're deep.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, 'cause they're the biggest volcanoes in the world. Just most of it's underwater.
Yeah, they're taller than Everest, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As far as height from the seafloor
to the top. Yeah, they're ginormous. So anchoring it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's not quite as bad as Catalina. What's frustrating to me about like Avalon, and it's like it's all filled with moorings, and if you want to anchor, you got to be outside, and now it's 100 feet of water.
I would never anchor at Avalon.
Yeah.
I mean, you could anchor over at that Descanso, but still, it's too deep. It's like way too deep. And hauling up in 70 feet of water, we learned that trick. We don't like that. No fun.
No bueno.
Yeah, we're not into
no
it.
bueno. Especially then if you've got to carry it with you.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Bummer.
You got a lot of chain.
Yeah, and we want more. So.
My idea is to get the smallest diameter of chain that's acceptable, you know, for the weight, and I would upsize on the nylon because that's what could potentially get them braided, you know.
Yeah, you're saying with all the
I had
coral
30
heads
feet
and
of chain, and that was not sufficient for
Yeah.
Hawaii because it's like you want to keep all your nylon off the ground, just because there's so much coral. And like I'd look down, I'd anchor, you know, an hour later I'd look down, and then my rope was like around this rock, and like, well, it's a sandy bottom, like, you know, an hour ago. Where are all these rocks coming from?
Oh yeah. Well, and I've talked to a number of sailors about this. Like, I have no interest in ever having an all chain set up at all because you can't cut and run. Like you're stuck, you know. And it's like, especially if you get in a bad situation. I mean, I would like our setup to be 200 feet of. I want to actually downgrade to 5/16 chain. We have 3/8 right now, but I would like to have 200 feet of 5/16, either HT or BBB, and then like 400 feet of rope road.
Oh yeah,
So,
you'd be set for
yeah.
anchoring.
Because right now we have 80 feet of 3/8 inch chain and 600 feet of rope road. So, but I want to have absurd amounts of rope road in case we're in a blow and we want to just let out crazy scope. You know, if you're away from land enough that you can, you know.
And here's something that I've noticed, like people have asked me about on my channel, and I've talked to some other people about, is like, I think you should like get comfortable anchoring. You know, that's something anyone can do. Like you don't have to go to some island. You can go find go out of the harbor and find a place to anchor.
Yep.
Like anywhere. You know.
Absolutely.
You know, like try it out. You know, get comfortable. Trust your anchor. Like spend the night on the anchor. You know, and just start to get comfortable with it and you know figure out what works. One thing I found is my boat anchors really nicely from the stern because it's a sloop and the mast is a little further forward. When I anchored from the bow, it would just fishtail, you know, 180 degrees, even more, just constantly. And then when it was really blowing hard, like I've anchored in a gale a couple times, just the shock loading on the nylon, you just see it stretch and like
Scary.
it's supposed to be, you know, strong enough, but it just like you look at that and it's just really scary. But then I read some article, it's kind of obscure little article that had a lot of like kind of comments. I'm like, that's weird, you know, like that doesn't sound like it works. But they were just saying, you know, sloops maybe try anchoring from the stern, and it had some reasoning behind it. But I was like, well, why not try it for myself? So I anchored from the stern, and I had to make a bridle because you know I had like the wind vane and everything hanging off the back.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. Like the boat just like stayed in line. Like it just did all that swinging back and forth. It was a little bit more noisy because it was, you know, the waves were slapping.
Yeah, because
But a lot of times, if you're at an anchor, you've got a kind of protection from the waves. If you're behind a seawall or behind a, you know, like an outcropping or something. And so I kind of have come to the idea that as long as you're not facing a huge swell and aren't worried about being like swamped or anything, which is not that very often, I like to, if the wind picks up, I like to anchor from the stern because a boat, like on at least my boat, it just stays so much more steady. And I'll be the only boat like faced, you know, the opposite way. But usually I was the only boat, you know, that's swinging back and forth that much.
Well, it
just
doesn't matter what you look like anyway,
noisy.
as long as you're comfortable.
Yeah, and
And
it's a little like unorthodox it seems like, but it works really well. It's like an experiment, you know.
But I guess, well, which comes to the question, you didn't have an anchor locker, right?
No.
So that's
really,
the only thing that made that possible.
Oh, well.
You know what I'm saying?
No, but you could pull the rope around and tie it off to the bobtail and make a bridle. Like
yeah,
you
you
can
probably
make these kind of things. It's all doable, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about sailing. Like, you know, these are all projects you can figure out a way to do. You know.
I mean, through aerodynamics, it sort of makes sense that it would blow.
The
over
article
your
was saying it was describing like an arrow feather, right? The tail feathers are in the back, right? So it stabilizes it. And a sloop has the mast like further forward, right? That's like the more windage, right? So you want the more windage in the
further away from
further away from where you're anchored, right? So I don't know. It works
That's
pretty
interesting.
well. Yeah.
That's cool. real world
I'm trying to
experience.
spread that knowledge because it
Yeah, I
made
never
a
heard
huge
of that.
difference for
Yeah.
me. And I think a lot of small sloops it makes sense for. Like maybe bigger like cutter rigs and like other boats, maybe not as much sense.
Yeah.
Or if you have a full keel and it's like able to stay there. But like if you're having trouble with your boat, swinging back and forth, which the boat I had before did the same thing. My Windrose 22. Just try anchoring from the stern. Give it a try. And it's really convenient to pull your anchor up from there too, because you can wrap it around a Genoa winch.
Oh yeah,
You know, and that's what I usually do because most of my line is rode, and I'll crank it in when it's really blowing. Because it's hard to pull up hand over hand over like 30 knots.
Yeah. No good.
Yeah, especially alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no
Which
one.
is most of the time for me.
Yeah, which no one can motor because, like,
my
Camille,
motor is too weak to.
Camille will motor forward to take off the
yeah.
slack, and she'll stay at the helm, and I'll bring it in, and we'll switch out when I get
Yeah.
too tired, where she'll do that,
I've
and that
never
helps
been
a
able
lot.
to do
Yeah, short-handed is much easier than single-handed. That's for sure.
You've got that
That
windlass,
manual
right?
windlass, but even that, when you're pulling up all of your chain and your 35-pound anchor in 70 feet of water, it doesn't give you that much advantage.
And then what's tricky is
Yeah,
though
it's really not
once
that
you get
much.
it up, then you're like adrift,
Yeah.
and now you have to like pull it up really
Yeah.
quick, and
Yeah.
or
Well,
go back and forth. And
At Santa Cruz, it was like completely calm conditions when I was there, but I was so scared because I'd never done it before. It was my first solo trip. I'd never solo anchored. I'd anchored a shitload, but never on my boat by myself. So I was mortified the first couple of days, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would get that thing up till I could see it, and then I would run back and I would motor out away from the land, and then I would turn everything off, and that would bring the anchor up because I was so
Yeah.
scared that something was going to happen while I was trying to get the anchor up. But
But you do what you have to do,
Yeah.
And then like sooner or later,
but
it
like you're
doesn't have to
saying,
be
that's
stressful.
that's
you know,
getting
once you figure
comfortable
it
by
out.
the even by the like fourth day anchoring. Even something that gave me more confidence was dragging anchor in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's like you drag anchor and you're like
Where did
you
drag
work
anchor?
it out. In Santa Cruz, I drag
Okay.
anchor twice.
Whoa.
But generally you can just pay out more scope as long as you've anchored far enough away from the cliff face.
You can afford to pay out more.
You pay out more scope and you're gonna stop dragging. So
Well, that's also like our bow stern. Like you'd never bow sterned until I went with you, right?
till Little Harbor, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so we've learned a lot doing that to get. I mean, I'd never done it obviously because I had never been on a sailboat or
Yeah.
like only your sailboat. I'd never done like overnight things. So like doing that every time we bow stern or every time we attempt doing something like that, we learn something.
We learned quite a
And
bit, yeah.
It always feels like picking up on mooring. Sometimes it's nicer, but like to be able to have options
Yeah.
feels really good.
I prefer to anchor. I mean, it's nice being on a mooring because it's so still, but
Yeah.
I love anchoring.
Although like some moorings in some parts of the world are not so. You're better off on your own.
Yeah.
Anchor like
Well, at least you can get away
Well,
easier.
that's what wasn't.
You're not crowded.
like those ones off Lahaina. Like every year, like some of them fail.
Ugh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
scary.
Also, somebody was saying that they were in, like, where the moorings were, it was full of trash. And, like, you could, like, run into, like just sea junk, like sea trash, like, in where the moorings were.
Yeah.
Like with an anchor, you have your choice. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It makes
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
It's also so much easier anchoring with two people. It's less stressful. Because, like, we'll drive around, look at stuff, and then Camille will stay. She'll drive the boat, and then I'll drop the
How are you
anchor.
guys with communicating? Like, that's kind of tricky, like yelling back and forth.
Well,
You
No,
guys
we're-
worked
you
out a
know
system?
what? We worked together, but we both worked individually on jobs, rigging giant objects and using forklifts. And so it's kind of the same thing. Like
Yeah, so we
we're-
know all the hand signals for, like,
We know the
forklift
hand
and
signals.
crane work. So, like,
cranes and forklifts.
yeah, so we use the same hand signals for truckers and crane
Yeah.
operators do.
Yeah.
And
So it
it's-
helps a lot.
And it's also like, because we trust each other and we'll have a distinct job, like, sometimes there's a little shouting, but it's like we both have a distinct thing that we're doing. And we're used to communicating that way.
Mhm.
The hardest part for us is the fact that our boat won't back up in a straight
The
line.
boat
Yeah.
doesn't
It
back
backs
up.
up
Really?
in a circle.
Oh.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't
What is
back
that?
straight
Is that
up.
the prop wash or
It's the full keel.
Yeah.
keel?
She just does
So-
this.
Yeah, it's like a giant circle. It's like, so now it's like we've gotten to where we'll pay out. Well, sometimes I'll just turn around and pay out going the opposite way.
Yeah.
After we
Oh.
set it,
Uh-huh.
we'll just like,
Yeah,
if I'm trying to get it in the
we've
right
actually
direction.
stopped, our boat like your boat likes to sleep backwards.
Yeah.
Our boat, we've got to
Yeah.
anchor, like double anchor backwards.
Yeah.
Because she won't back up.
Yeah. And also, I've gotten to the point to where now stern anchoring, we've tried so many different variables of ways, and like Little Harbor was so small and so protected, it was very easy. Like we came in, it was like we were in 12 feet of water, you know, and we dropped our stern anchor and paid it out till we got to where I wanted, dropped our bow anchor, and then backed it up, you know, and like found a spot.
So you use a stern anchor as like a secondary to the first anchor always.
Yeah,
you
so
never tried just
a lot
one
of
stern
it
anchor?
up in, especially like Little Harbor, you have to, and even Cabrillo Harbor, which I showed you today, you have to do bow stern unless you anchor way out. So
Why
it
is
just
that?
holds
Does it
you
fit
into
more
the
boats?
swell.
Oh, to hold you in the
and you
right
won't.
direction.
You can get
But also
real
there's,
close
like,
in.
There's land
right.
formations, rock formations real close. So when we were at Cabrillo, we were like, I'm just thinking in like I could arm crawl to it real fast.
Yeah,
like it was
that's
close.
nice to be
like,
able to
like
get
a couple
close
of
when you
boats
have two
lengths.
Mm-hmm.
In kind of Oe, on Oahu, everybody was telling me about how you're supposed to anchor there, and it was wild. I did it. Like they say just run your boat right into the sandbar. It was such a weird feeling, like feeling the bottom hit my boat. It's like, okay, we'll go nice and slow. Just ran right into the sandbar. Oh, and there's the sandbar. It's like,
Look at your
a foot
eyeballs.
deep. Just throw your anchor out, and then the boat drifts back, and you put the stern anchor out and tie it up. It was so fun, but like.
Yeah.
That's what they do there, and yeah, it worked. I got the boat there for 2 days.
That's well, that's similar to the Stockholm archipelago.
Yeah.
Doing bows too, and it's not sand. It's
Yeah,
rock.
it's this nice
It's
friendly
rock.
sand
It's
there. They're like,
fucking-
it'll be fine, just do it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You're just like,
okay, I'm gonna do it. Why
Yeah.
not? But just feeling your boat, ground. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a new feeling.
Yeah, but there it's like you
It's good
creep
that was
up.
a new feeling.
Yeah, you creep up on these rock faces
No.
to the point to where you
That's a
just
different
step
game.
off the bow onto the rock.
Oh, really?
Because the
Wow.
rocks go down and you can see everything crystal clear.
Uh-huh.
And as long as it's like you have like the cut on your boat, you
can
just
do it.
ease in, and someone steps off and ties you to a tree. You don't even put the anchor down.
Oh,
You tie off
okay.
to a tree, and then you like I think we dropped a stern anchor and paid it out, and then you tie up to a tree, and that's it.
That was like what I thought I needed to do in Mandalay Bay. There's supposed to be a seawall there, according to my outdated cruising guide. But it's really now it's like a seawall, and then no one ties off to the sea. I'm not. It's like a rock jetty kind of thing,
like a breakwater.
And I was like, why isn't this a seawall? There's supposed to be rings I tie up to, so I just kept pulling up close to it, and being like,
Looking at it.
whoa.
Did they?
Where do I tie to? And I had the anchor out, my bow anchor out, and I was like kind of backing into it, like with my little electric motor, like, stressing that
so
thing, trying to get
sketchy.
into there. I was like, this isn't going to work, and I ended up just saying, screw it, I'll just tie up to the boat launch ramp and wait until the morning. And sure enough, like, nope, they built a charter, boat, ramp or something there now. That doesn't exist. So the cruising guides are not always up to date, especially.
There's
in
that,
Hawaii.
right? And then that brings me to the other question for you: is what did you use for navigation? Like first, what did you use for your route planning, and then what did you use when you were underway?
So like for the time frame, I was looking at hurricane season, just doing it outside of that. So that kind of told me what time of the year I was going to go. And then I was using the Navionics Boat US app for my iPhone for that's what I just usually use. It works pretty well. And then along the way, I learned celestial navigation. I got a little cheap plastic sextant.
It's fun, right?
Super fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I mean, you got a time out there. I just did noon sights basically, and then
that's the
measuring
easiest
Polaris.
thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's I got within 15 miles.
That's cool. That's all. That's like what you shoot for. Like 10 miles is the sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, that was like my best. But it's really hard when the boat is rocking
Yeah.
and the swell is going up and down. Like the horizon just makes a huge
Yeah.
change. It's hard to figure
And
out.
also the clouds and stuff.
Yeah,
It's like you have to do
if
your DR. We
Yeah.
have GPS now, but
yeah.
it's like you get one sight every 4 days because of the clouds. Then you're relying on your DR, and then it's like you pull a sight.
And if you're just using local noon sights, then like if it's cloudy at that time of day, you'll wait till tomorrow, I guess, to figure out where you are. But it's pretty wild being
it's
able to figure out where you are.
Yeah, I love it.
And then it's fun to talk with the flat earthers in Hawaii. There's a bunch of them. You're like, what's your explanation? How does this work?
Oh man, that's so good.
Oh, we shouldn't mention flat Earth if we're on
I know now
YouTube,
people are
right?
gonna be real mad. They're gonna go crazy.
We get more
That'll
comments, right? That's
that'll be
always
a
good for the
blooper.
algorithm.
Awesome. And then you started posting once you got there. you started posting lots of short little videos.
Yeah, I was doing like short little videos, kind of just for like my parents and grandparents, so I didn't have to keep like saying the same stories over and over to them. And then like some of your fans who were like your subscribers that were curious about if I made it or not started like commenting, trying to say you need to post the video of like sailing across there. So then I finally got around to editing the full video, and then that started kind of blowing up on YouTube for a little bit.
I think it got posted like Sailing Anarchy or something. It got posted somewhere because you had an explosion like in a very short time.
I think it really spoke to some people because just kind of like an average person didn't really know a ton about sailing, a little bit experience. It seemed kind of attainable. Doing it and making it
hard,
on a small boat like anyone could buy. It was a $2,500 boat.
Yeah. And then that brings me to another point, which if you're not comfortable talking about this, then we'll just edit this out.
Sure.
But I mean, in some ways, you have a disability.
Oh yeah, I want to make a video about that eventually.
I think you should because it's very.
Because people have told me like it's kind of like inspired them, or So I have an ostomy bag. So my large intestine I had removed because I had ulcerative colitis, and that was kind of one of the after having that surgery was one of the kind of things that pushed me to actually make this trip happen. Like until. Like it was kind of always something like I joked about, I'm gonna sail a little boat around the world, because I've had these small boats before. I would just day sailing to Catalina, and I did want to do that, but you can it's easy to push it off or find reasons not to.
Yeah.
Like especially when it comes to like having to quit your job and like or buy a $2,500 wind vane, it's just like one little piece of gear.
It costs as much as your boat, right? I mean,
having had one, like. I would pay twice as much for the wind vane as the boat. Like that's how valuable it is to me.
Yeah.
The sailing, because that steered the whole way. But like, there's these big thresholds that lots of people aren't gonna like when they say like I want to do this too. You're inspiring me. Like most people won't actually do it. But I don't know. It was something that pushed me to do it. Was like just realizing like I don't know, just kind of thinking about like how long you're actually gonna live and.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like things that could get in the way later, health problems and stuff. Like I was pretty healthy right now. I found I could deal with this.
Yeah.
And I kind of turned it into an asset in a way. Like I just empty this thing over the side. I don't have to worry about having a head.
That's true. His head doesn't.
How many weeks did he spend?
His head doesn't smell.
Getting yours working.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, head smelling. But this boat smells amazing for having a head and this
We've been on the hard and using the head over there mostly, but
also there's stuff in the tank right now. You've also been working on it a lot. It's like that's like one of the things.
We have a plastic tarp that covers it, and it's remarkable how much that helps. But so, and how old are you right now?
31.
And then you had that surgery when you were in your 20s, you said?
No, it's about like 2 years ago. Yeah, I'm 20,
wow.
28 or something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's not that you can still do anything you want to do. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like you have like a physical ailment that is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're also a madman. So you have the benefit of being a madman, but you have a physical ailment. You're on a 23-foot boat, and you sail to Hawaii successfully.
Yeah,
and
just break it into pieces. Like I need to have a certain amount of ostomy bags. I wanted to like be able to give myself like IV fluids, which I think is not a bad idea if you're like going out. Like IV fluids is the kind of a cure for a lot of things.
I know a lot
like
of drunkards that swear by IVs.
Yeah, I didn't end up doing that, but I want to learn how to give myself an IV.
Yeah. We're gonna have to talk to Alexander. My sister and her husband are doctors.
Yeah.
Hey, Alexander.
My brother and all his Marine friends get hammered and then they do IVs.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a logical thing to add to the first aid kit.
Yeah.
Because I get kidney stones sometimes now, and that's like, like I get super dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's also a thing like seasickness gets you super dehydrated. So like I'd like to be able to give myself IV fluids if I really needed to.
That makes sense.
But yeah, other than that, I had like a pretty standard like sailing kind of first aid kit.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the your fears don't actually happen out there.
Yeah.
It feels good to try to.
Well, and a lot of your fears don't happen if you make the right decisions beforehand.
Right.
So like if you're sailing in a region that's known to be good sailing season, that's a lot of it. There's a lot of sailors who have sailed around, done 3 circumnavigations and never seen a bad storm.
Right.
Because all you gotta do is like
a bad storm too.
Yeah.
And it's like people that just if you have the boat and you've sailed the boat you're gonna sail before, that makes the biggest difference from the people I've talked to. Like a lot of people like in Hawaii sailed there from, California, and like there's like some people had like horrible experiences, and some people it was a great adventure, and it seems to be the difference is like how much they've sailed, you know, their boat before. Like even people that are really experienced, if they hadn't sailed that particular boat before,
makes a difference.
You know, just get used to it. And
well, that's like us and you as well, sailing in and out of Hurricane Gulch all the time. Like it's regularly 20 knots in that, you know.
Totally, yeah.
And
you
like,
get used to that feeling, and you're like, okay, that's what it's like. Can I handle this out at sea when there's really no place to tuck into?
Yeah,
you know?
and if that's your standard, if you do that every time you go sailing, then once you hit it out of sea, you're like, eh.
Yeah,
you're
totally.
like, then it steps up to, you know, 35 knots, and you're like, oh, this is what most people feel like in 20 knots, you know? So.
Yeah, and it's all about your perspective. Like, it's just like your tolerance to that kind of conditions.
Yeah,
like the boat can handle it.
What
If
your
as long as
temperament is, what you're willing to, like...
Exactly, yeah. If you can keep calm and, like, take things step at a time, like, nothing happens really that fast, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it's happening all at once. But you can just take things one thing, like background, you know, like you don't want it to flap, but it takes a long time to like wear out a sail, really.
Yeah.
Like you can deal with it. Like I remember at one point, like when I was like sailing off the coast of Malibu, like I ended up getting my jib further twisted up, and it was just like, oh, I was so overwhelmed. But then just like, you know, take it one thing at a time. You know, cut off this sheet that's just like beyond repair, you know, and just deal with it, and circle the boat around and wind it up, and like you can deal with things if you just kind of like take a step back, and just deal with it.
Yeah. And that's a lot of it, is keeping your head about you. It's like, you know, that's how things go horribly wrong if you start panicking.
Yeah. I think also like because I've not been a sailor for very long. Anytime.
Had you sailed before you met James?
No.
Really? Wow.
She's only sailed on 3 boats. Yeah, she's only sailed on 3 boats, you know. It's like her first overnight was to Santa Barbara Island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you sail the boat by yourself now? How comfortable do you feel with that?
If he got knocked on the head and he was totally out, I think I could get us somewhere safe, but it wouldn't be pretty.
It doesn't have to be, you know?
Yeah.
This is a big boat. Have you sailed dinghies or smaller boats before?
No. And I want to take her sailing on lasers because
that's so much more fun.
They respond so quickly. You learn. You understand the physics
like, if
of it.
you don't deal with it, then the boat tips over.
And they're fun. They're like go-karts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
but we've done a lot of tacking behind the breakwater.
Yeah. And you have to tack to get out of the...
Yeah,
because there's no motor at all.
I mean, we took some of our friends out and just kind of messed with them and tacked back and forth
the whole day.
Like the whole day.
Yeah. But to get out of the port of LA, like you guys have to tack a long time to get out of there. So you're used to short tacking anyway.
Yeah.
That's a good step for it.
But yeah, so I'm getting used to it, but it's the I know I'm good at other things, but I also you had to have that surgery. My dad died recently, and so it makes me just want to be like, how long are you gonna live? Like you've got to do it.
Yeah.
And people will be
like people save up their whole lives for what they want to do.
Exactly.
It's like save up enough to do what you want to do.
Exactly.
I just think of the things I want to do long in my life, and then it's like, well, how can I do that in the next couple of years? And there's a way to do some version of that.
Yeah.
And maybe you should just do that.
Totally.
You know?
Well, that's like I think it was Lynn Pardee. I can't remember. It was one of the Pardees would always say, "Go small, go now."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, because I mean, if I wanted to sail to Hawaii or around the world in a 40-foot boat, I could have saved for another 10 or 15 years and done that. Yeah. Or I could have saved for another 6 months and gone with the boat I had, just put a wind vane on it and said, I can do this. Yeah. And that was the experience. I wasn't sure if it was going to be worthwhile. I was like, am I quitting? Is this worthwhile, to do? I'm going to just regret this later. But having done it, it was the best decision I've ever made. It was so satisfying and rewarding.
And now you know that's you want to do
what
that.
I want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've heard also if you're wondering if it's something you want to do, it probably is, So you should just go for it, Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, you'll know pretty quick out at sea if it's not what you want to do, and you won't do it again.
And you'll come back. You don't have a problem doing that if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to just do it. You got to do it. That's on my 40th birthday, I was had just gotten out of the hospital. I had double pneumonia. I almost died. I was alone, completely heartbroken from a relationship that had ended, and I was at the lowest point in my life. I was so sick. I couldn't even walk across my apartment because my lungs were so bad. So I would have to have stools set up so I could stop and take a break to get to the restroom. And on my 40th birthday, it was just the darkest hour. And I was like, you know what? On my 45th birthday, I'm going to be sailing in Mexico.
Yes.
And I didn't have a boat. I didn't have any money. You
Can you
know what
imagine
I
the
mean?
contrast though? You know, from that point to like your own boat.
Yeah.
Like
I was like, you didn't have any prospects. I mean, I had a job. I've always had a job. I was working, but I was like, you know, I'm gonna make this happen, and I will by, you know, spring of 2020, I'm gone.
yeah, the determination, like everything you've done, this is amazing.
Here
like,
we are.
All the.
You know,
You were like you're 2 weeks and you're like this has been taking twice as long as you thought. But I looked at all the projects you did. I couldn't believe you painted the whole bottom and the top sides and all the through holes and like you're grounding everything. Yeah, everything you're doing on this haul out is like.
And we could have done it all in 7 days, easy.
Yeah, I believe it.
I mean,
too.
we're maniacs.
You're waiting for the boat.
That's the thing. You call him a madman.
Yeah.
You're also a madman.
Yeah.
Well, because you're trying to sail around Cape Horn. Like
that's the thing, though. You know, that's exactly it. Everything I do on this boat. Every single thing I do, every latch, every these, every single thing I do, I think, what's this going to do in the Southern Ocean?
Yeah.
That's the question I ask myself.
Do say that you're
about every single, the
Southern
smallest detail. I'm like, what is this going to do in the Southern Ocean?
Because the boat's going to get put down its ear and everything.
And, you know, we're not going to linger in the Southern Ocean. You know, it's like we're going to be there to go around Cape Horn. We're not going to, like, you know. We're not just circumnavigating via the Southern Ocean. So it's like, but if you build it to that standard, then everything else is like, oh, okay. It's, you know, it's chill.
Yeah.
And it's way more work and it's like, you know, a lot more money, but, you know, like all the bronze
But
fittings.
you never know when it's going to be the storm there or
never
something.
know.
You could be anywhere. It could
A
be
rogue
other places
wave.
too,
You
right?
don't fucking know. Yeah.
And yeah. Like I figured sailing to Hawaii would be the hard part, and then I just have leisurely cruise through the islands.
Oh yeah.
It was way harder sailing between the islands in Hawaii. Like I did so little research, you know. I was like, I got there. I'll just spend the next couple of months like this is my reward.
Yeah.
And then like I start talking to people. I only knew that's like
yeah.
one of the most dangerous channels in the world.
Yeah. And it's so funny because when you went there, I didn't know what your intentions were. I knew you were sailing there, but I didn't know if you were just going to get there and be like, okay, peace out. Because you told me you weren't really considering sailing back on that boat.
I was thinking about going up like to the up towards Alaska and down the coast. But then once I did it, like just not having like a real like a motor, like because I think there's like periods of like
especially if there's no wind. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just didn't seem like the right boat to do that.
Not at all.
I mean, I'm sure someone could do it, but it wasn't me.
Also, when you where it seems like different kinds of jobs, but like when the work comes in, you got to take it if you're gonna like save up and do this.
Well, yeah, that was just this random thing. Like my old manager called me, and like I didn't burn any bridges when I left Disney, but I was just like, you know, my heart isn't in this, and I want to sail, you know, and you know, but maybe one day I could come back, you know, just not right now, you know. And they just kind of contacted me out of the blue, and like we got this project, we can't find someone to do it. Like, what would you want, you know, for it? And so I was like, well, I don't, you know, I didn't really like. My first reaction was like, no, I'm living my best life now. I'm not going back to that.
Yeah.
And then, but I was like, well, like they asked me what, you know, what would it cost me? So like, well, everybody's got a number, you know. And so there's like a little back and forth, and we got something I was pretty happy with. And I was like, well, I could really use this to sail for
the next step.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is like you said, your boat was, you did far more in that boat than anyone would ever imagine possible, but it wasn't equipped to do what now especially you would like to do. You know, now you got a taste of it.
You know, it's going to be a small boat, but it's going to be proportionally larger for the proportionally larger, you know, sails. It's still going to be, you know, simple and everything, but something just a little bit.
But with a bigger ass.
Yeah, exactly. Big bottom.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, that's probably enough yammering.
You have so much.
Thanks so much. I'm going to put it all up. Everybody will be stoked to see it. This will be one of our Friday videos. And then if you want to put this up on your channel, I'll send it to you.
No, it's all you. That's too long for me.
Right? So, Sam Holmes, Maniac.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We're happy to see him, and happy he's still alive. Thanks for watching. Until next time.